Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with fast upside down turkey. That's right, people have posted fast right side up turkeys and slow upside down turkeys. But as far as I know, for the first time in internet video recipe history, we're posting a fast upside down turkey. And while I generally like to limit major experiments to one per video, here I'm testing out two new things. Cooking a turkey at a very high heat, as well as trying to cook it upside down, which I've heard for decades is the way to go if you want moist, juicy meat. So with that, let's go ahead and get started by prepping our turkey, which as usual means removing the neck and any innards, which we will of course use to help make our gravy. Preferably a make-ahead gravy. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. And then what we're going to do here is salt this turkey very generously inside and out with kosher salt, which I'm going to edit down for time's sake. But we want to be very thorough and make sure the inside, as well as every inch of the outside surface, is generously coated with like 3 to 4 tablespoons of kosher salt, which no, is not too much. And in case you're wondering, this technique is sometimes referred to as dry brining, because it basically has the same effect as wet brining, but I find it much easier and less messy. And that's it. Once our turkey is very generously salted, we'll go ahead and transfer that into the fridge uncovered for between 12 and 24 hours. Okay, you could probably go 48, but don't go less than 12. And then what we'll do once we're ready to roast our bird is take a loaf of French bread or Italian bread and cut it lengthwise into 2 pieces like this. And once that's been accomplished, we can go ahead and butter these halves very generously with some hopefully soft unsalted butter. And what we're making here is basically an insulated pad for the bottom of our pan, since as I mentioned earlier, we're going to cook our turkey upside down. So what we'll do once those are buttered is place them into our large foil roasting pan, butter side up. And please note our foil pan's been placed on a regular sheet pan, which is going to make everything a lot more stable and easier to get in and out of the oven. And that's it. Once we have our pan prepped, we can pull out our turkey, which has been sitting in the fridge dry brining for at least a day. And then if we want, which I did, we can place some fresh turkey herbs in the cavity. And by turkey herbs, I mean sage, rosemary, and thyme. Sorry, parsley. I know you're in the song. And then once that cavity has been herbed, we can go ahead and tie up the legs using a little bit of kitchen string. And if you don't have that, you can just use some dental floss, or you can bend a paper clip. And that's it. Once bound, we will carefully pick it up and transfer that backbone side up onto our buttered bread breast pads. And once that's been placed upon, we'll want to make sure it's as well balanced as possible and sitting up nice and straight. And since the whole idea of this is that this bread's going to insulate the breast from the pan, I tried to make sure those 2 halves were pressed together in the center. All right, since I figured we're doing this at such high heat, I really don't want any part of the breast touching the pan. And then once we have that situated, I am definitely going to fold back and tuck in my wingtips, since as you might know, untucked wingtips are one of my all-time big culinary pet peeves. And yes, that hanging excess skin was bugging me too, but I couldn't get it to stay pushed in. So I guess if you want, you could trim that off. I mean, you are after all the King George III of this inverted bird. But I didn't trim it, hoping it would get crispy as it roasted, which it did. And then, speaking of revolutionary times, once all that's set, this is now ready to transfer into a way too hot oven for turkey. All right, we're going to roast this at an insane 450 degrees for just about 2 hours, or until a thermometer stuck in the thickest part of the thigh reads 165. And if everything's gone according to plan, your upside-down turkey should look like this, which appearance-wise I would describe as a combination of absolutely gorgeous and slightly inappropriate looking. And then once our turkey's out of the oven, like all roast turkeys, we want to let this rest for at least 15 or 20 minutes before we carve it. And by the way, if I had to do this all over again, I would serve it just like this. Or as long as we warn our guests first, since a turkey in this position can be a little disconcerting. But part of the experiment here was to go ahead and flip this over and then pop this under a hot broiler for a few minutes to hopefully brown that pale skin covering the breast meat. So I very carefully flipped it over, and what I saw when I did caused a lot of concern. Because as you can see, that breastbone had popped through the skin, which I figured was caused by the weight of the turkey pressing down, and or because we used such a high temperature, the breast meat was horribly overcooked, which is kind of what it looked like at this point. But anyway, I pressed on and went ahead and brushed over some turkey fat. At which point, like I said, I popped this under a hot broiler for about 5 minutes, which definitely made that pale skin a little browner, although whether it made it look better is debatable. So like I said, next time I might just serve it upside down. But either way, we're definitely going to want to remove our buttered bread breast pads from the bottom, which were beautifully browned and crisp on the edges. and had soaked in all that amazing herb-scented turkey fat. And of course, what we'll do is cube all that up and serve that as a dressing alongside our turkey, especially if you soak it with the additional turkey juices from the bottom of the pan. Or of course, if you want, you could just add that stuff to your gravy. All right, both of those things are very good ideas. But anyway, I went ahead and transferred that stuff onto a serving platter and topped it with my upside-down turkey, except I did it right side up. And then to distract people, I decided to garnish with a few persimmons. And since that breastbone was still bugging me, I actually went ahead and pulled a piece of crispy skin off the back and used it as sort of an edible sternum codpiece. And if I'm being honest, that was more delicious than it was effective. But anyway, at this point it was time to grab a knife so I could see how these grand experiments turned out. And as I sliced this first piece, I was really afraid this was going to be horribly dry and overcooked. Whoops. But as I proceeded to the second slice, I could see that it wasn't. All right, as hopefully you can see here, it was beautifully moist and glistening. And I really was at this point surprised by how well this breast meat came out, despite using a temperature that's way, way higher than is usually recommended for turkey. And even this first slice I did, which was right next to where that bone popped out, even that was really good. Although I really should have eaten that in one bite because of this. Whoops. So the thing I was most worried about here being a problem was not a problem. And that breast meat really was lovely. So that was good news, because I knew the dark meat was going to be great. All right, the advantage of the upside-down turkey is that dark meat is inverted and higher and gets more of the direct heat. And since that's where all the joints are and it usually takes longer to cook, that should work out to our advantage. So I hacked off this leg to be sure, and then I turned off the camera and ate it, pretending, of course, that I was at a Renaissance fair. I mean, come on, who doesn't love fake jousting? And then after I devoured that, I went ahead and finished up by slicing a few more pieces of the breast, served alongside our famous roasted smashed potatoes, with everything being smothered with our make-ahead gravy. And like I said earlier, you'll definitely want to check out that recipe and, of course, the potato recipe. But anyway, that's it. What I'm calling fast upside-down turkey. To summarize, despite using very, very high heat to cook this very quickly in 2 hours, the white meat was still surprisingly moist and juicy. And also due to the high temperature and cooking it upside down, the dark meat came out wonderfully as well. And like I said, the only thing I think I'd do differently next time would be to not bother trying to brown the breast skin and just serve it upside down in all its provocative glory. So whether you're looking for a method to cook your turkey in half the time, or you just want to see some raised eyebrows when you bring it to the table, I really do hope you give this a try soon. So please follow the links below to get the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.